Chapter 1669. Hearing this, Lu Qingyuan's chin almost fell off. Niece. But this honored envoy looks very young, not older than Miss Qian. Ning nodded and said, "This envoy's seniority is high. Isn't that right, Qian?" The thousand-faced young master gritted his teeth and nodded. Then he made a gesture. He knew that Ning wanted him to pretend to be a girl in front of everyone. Although he didn't understand her intentions, he didn't dare go against her wishes. He didn't dare speak because he would be exposed if he did, so he could only use sign language. Lu Qingyuan's eyes couldn't help looking over at the thousand-faced young master. Seeing his sign language, he didn't understand what it meant. He didn't understand why this peerless beauty didn't say anything and just use sign language. "Sir Lu, my niece is a mute and can't speak." Her sign language just now was to praise Sir Lu. Ning softly said, So Miss Qian doesn't know how to speak." Lu Qingyuan was stunned at first, but then he revealed a regretful expression. He looked at the thousand-faced young master with eyes filled with sympathy, and of course there was a look of love that he couldn't hide. The guards beside him couldn't help letting out an sound, feeling very regretful. But when Lu Qingyuan heard that the thousand-faced young master was a mute, he let out a sigh of relief in his heart. When he first saw the thousand-faced young master, he felt that he was a fairy from the 9 heavens that was out of his reach. Now that he heard that this fairy was a mute, it was like seeing a fairy from the heavens that had fallen to the mortal world. Not only did he not look down on her, he even felt a bit closer to her. But Lu Qingyuan was very calm when he did things. Although he had strange thoughts about the thousand-faced young master, he quickly calmed himself down and cupped his hands to Ning. "Does the honored envoy have an imperial edict? If there is no imperial edict, please forgive this lowly official for not being able to welcome you into the city." When Ning heard this, she had a whole new level of respect for Lu Qingyuan. This man was not like those frivolous men who would fall head over heels after seeing the thousand-faced young master in women's clothes, losing their minds and letting them enter the city without even asking anything. She nodded at Lu Qingyuan. Sir Lu's thoughts are meticulous, not leaking a single drop, truly admirable. Since this envoy is here on the Emperor's orders, naturally, I have the Emperor's secret edict. This token is only a token. I have a secret edict here, but I can only show it to you, Sir Lu. When Lu Qingyuan heard her praise him, his face turned red and he said, "It's not that this lowly official doesn't believe the esteemed envoy, but this is a very special time. I've heard that the commander of the South Yu troops is King Ding Yuan, Chu Xiaoyao. The emperor is very close to him, and he might have this kind of gold medal in his hand. So this lowly official has to be careful." Ning said with a faint smile, "Of course this envoy will not blame you. Even my niece has this token, so this one will have to be careful. I asked the token." When Lu Qingyuan heard this, his face turned even redder. He could not help but steal glances at the thousand-faced young master again. He even stuttered, "Miss Qian, you're praising me too much. I don't deserve it." Chapter 1670. "Sir Lu, this is a secret edict. Take a look." Ning took out a yellow imperial edict from her bag and gave it to Lu Qingyuan. Lu Qingyuan hurriedly knelt down on both knees and respectfully received it with both hands raised high. Ning thought that it was a good thing she was prepared. When she was in Mo Chuan's study, she had secretly stamped a piece of yellow silk with a jade seal. Naturally, she could write whatever she wanted on it. So this envoy really was sent by the emperor to help. "This lowly official has neglected you. Sir Chun, please forgive me." After Lu Qingyuan read the imperial edict, he gave it back to Ning and respectfully bowed again. He did not have any doubts in his heart. Although he was still suspicious of the emperor sending only 2 people to defend the city, he could see from the imperial edict that this Sir surnamed Chun was highly respected and that he had to listen to Sir Chen's orders. He could tell that Sir Chen's background was not small. Otherwise, how could he be so highly regarded by the emperor? Ignorance is not a crime. Sir Lu is also very cautious. Ning revealed a faint smile. "Sir Chun, Miss Qian, please follow this lowly official into the city." This lowly official will prepare a banquet to entertain the two envoys. Lu Qingyuan personally came forward to lead Chen Ning's horse. There's no need for a banquet. The South Yu army will arrive soon. This envoy is here to help Sir Lu defend the city, not to eat and drink. Let's enter the city first. This envoy will immediately discuss the matter of defending the city with Sir Lu. Chen Ning said. Hearing her words, Lu Qingyuan's skeptical heart fell back into his stomach, and his eyes filled with admiration as he looked at Chen Ning. Don't look at how this Sir Chen was young. He was very direct and straightforward, not beating around the bush at all. Good. This was the kind of official he liked. He was 100 times better than those corrupt officials who came to eat and drink after receiving the imperial edict. He was also a practical person, so he brought Chen Ning into the city. He did not go straight to the garrison palace, but rather he brought her to see the military arrangements and gave her his plan to defend the city. Garrison Lu, you mean that you want to defend the city to the death? Before Lu Qingyuan could finish, Chen Ning had already cut him off. That's right. Does Sir Chen have a better idea? This lowly official is willing to listen. Lu Qingyuan revealed a surprised look. He had spoken for a long time, but Chen Ning's expression was still calm, like she was not interested in what he was saying at all. This made his heart feel even more uneasy. It wasn't that Chen Ning was not interested, but rather she did not understand at all. Guard Lu, let me ask you, how many soldiers are there in the city? She went straight to the point. There are a total of 5,000 soldiers. This was a military secret, but Lu Qingyuan answered without any hesitation because he had already treated Chen Ning as one of his own. This was a military secret, but Ning replied without any hesitation. Is Chen Qingyuan's and said, right? Chen, Ning, this envoy, Chen, Ning and Chen, he said embarrassedly, it's not that this lowly official wanted to deceive the honorable envoy, but this lowly official is used to it. The honorable envoy is right. There are only 3,000 people stationed in this city, but if we include the young people in the city, we can make up to 5,000. Chapter 1671. Lu Qingyuan answered in a low voice. I heard it's an army of 100,000. Chen Ning said, that's right. They have an army of 100,000. Do you think 3,000 people can defend against an army of 100,000? Even if we defend, we won't be able to defend. Lu Qingyuan had been worried about this for a long time. He had racked his brains and hadn't been able to sleep well for a few days. Of course, he knew they couldn't defend, but as the commander of Yuezhou's defense, he couldn't say something so discouraging. Even if they couldn't defend, they had to defend. As the commander of the West Chu garrison, he was paid by the ruler, so he had to be loyal. Even if he had to sacrifice his life for the country, he would die without complaint. He had already prepared himself to defend Yuezhou to the death. If they really couldn't defend and Yuezhou city was conquered by the South Yu, then the day the city falls would be the day he dies for the country. Of course, he couldn't say this out loud to Chen Ning. Sir Chen, may I ask if you've thought of a good way to defend Yuezhou city? Lu Qingyuan suddenly remembered that they were special envoys sent by the emperor. If the emperor only sent the two of them, then perhaps they also brought a good way to defend the city. Chen Ning softly said, since we can't defend, then why defend? My plan is to have all of the defenders withdraw from the city. Also, evacuate the citizens of the city as soon as possible. Before the Nanyue army arrives, the further the better. Lu Qingyuan was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. What? Sir Chen, what did you say? He suspected that there was something wrong with his ears, and he couldn't help but to dig his ears. Chen Ning glanced at him. Her voice was calm and collected. I want you to order all the citizens to leave Yuezhou city. Of the 3,000 soldiers in the city, only 300 will be enough. The rest must leave immediately without delay. Only then did Lu Qingyuan confirm that he didn't hear wrong. His face instantly turned red as he suppressed his anger. Sir Chen, are you saying that I should abandon the city and run away? Chen Ning softly said, that's right. That's what I mean. Lu Qingyuan's anger rose, and he couldn't help but yell, Sir Chen, you are wrong. Lu Qingyuan, have been blessed by the emperor. When the country is in danger, it is time for me to fight for the country. How can I be a coward who runs away? This lowly official would rather die on the battlefield than be a deserter. Please forgive me for not obeying your orders. His every word was powerful and resonant, and his expression was even more impassioned. Chen Ning couldn't help but to admire his courage. The thousand-faced young master looked at Lu Qingyuan with disdain, sneering in his heart. He only had 3,000 soldiers and horses, while the enemy had 100,000 people. Instead of leading the army to escape, he wanted to stay here and die. If he wasn't a fool, then what was he? Who knew that Lu Qingyuan would misunderstand the meaning of his glance? Seeing the beautiful eyes of the thousand-faced prince looking at him, his heart skipped a beat. Following that, his expression became excited. Miss Qianqian, you agree with me, don't you? Qianqian, I know you knows. To be able to receive such a glance from Miss Qianqian, even if this lowly official dies on the battlefield, I will have no regrets. His words clearly expressed his admiration towards the young master, the thousand-faced young master. This was because he remembered that the Nanyu army was about to arrive, and perhaps they were about to take over Yuezhou. In less than half a day, he would have to sacrifice his life for his country. Since he was going to die, why not confess his feelings before he dies? Chapter 1672. Chen Ning was secretly laughing in her stomach, but she revealed a serious expression. Guard Lu, from what you're saying, it seems like you've fallen for my niece. Lu Qingyuan had been impulsive and blurted out those words, but his heart was filled with regret now. How could he be so rude to a beauty? Not to mention that he was a dead man. So what qualifications did he have to talk about marriage with her? Hearing Chen Ning's words, he felt even more ashamed. He said in a low voice, "No, I don't dare. This lowly official doesn't dare. This lowly official doesn't dare have such thoughts." Chen Ning gave a chi laugh and said, "What do you mean by that? Guard Lu is young and my niece is in her prime, so it seems like you two are a good match. If Sir Lu is interested, then this envoy is willing to help you two get together." Lu Qingyuan's heart couldn't help beating fast. He was so happy that he almost jumped up. He said in a voice filled with disbelief, Is this true?" Chen Ning said with a smile. "This envoy is a special envoy sent by the emperor, so naturally my words carry weight and I won't lie." The thousand-faced young master almost wanted to block Chen Ning's mouth, but he did not dare say anything. He could only raise his hand and make a few gestures, telling her not to mention this matter anymore. Otherwise, he would be angry, very angry. Chen Ning did not care if he was angry or not, happy or not. She smiled as she looked at Lu Qingyuan and said, What is Guard Lu's opinion?" Lu Qingyuan was foolishly looking at the thousand-faced young master. When he saw the blush on his face, he thought that she was shy, which filled his heart with love. Hearing Chen Ning ask him for his opinion, he came back to his senses and shook his head. "Sir Chen, this matter is not appropriate. You can't do this." Chen Ning said in a strange voice, "What? Do you not like my niece? Do you think that she is not beautiful, or that her character is not good enough to be with Guard Lu?" Lu Qingyuan waved his hand and said, "Lady Qianqian is as beautiful as a fairy. If someone like her is not beautiful, then all the girls in the world are ugly. Also, with the war at hand, Lady Qianqian is not afraid of danger to come to Yuezhou to help. This kind of spirit is something that even a man cannot compare to. A girl as beautiful and brave as Lady Qianqian. This is the first time in this lowly official's life that I've met. If I could marry a beauty like Lady Qianqian, it would be a dream for this lowly official, but this lowly official cannot agree to this." Why is that? Not only did Chen Ning feel it was strange, even the thousand-faced young master felt it was unbelievable. The surrounding soldiers who heard this all looked at Lu Qingyuan with a puzzled expression. When they heard that the envoy sent by the emperor wanted to marry this fairy-like beauty to Guard Lu, their eyes lit up with envy. If they were in Lu Qingyuan's shoes, they would have already nodded their heads in agreement. There was no reason for them to push away a beauty. Lu Qingyuan's expression was serious. "Sir Chen, the army of the south you will arrive in the blink of an eye. This lowly official has already made up his mind. If the city exists, the people will exist. If the city falls, the people will die. If Uejo City is conquered by the army of the South U, this lowly official will sacrifice his life for the country and not live in vain. Therefore, this lowly official cannot accept Sir Chen's good intentions, because this will ruin Lady Qianqian's life. He enunciated each and every word forcefully and forcefully. When the soldiers heard this, they cheered in unison. Chapter 1673. Chen Ning cupped her hands in front of Lu Qingyuan and said, I didn't think Guard Lu would have the determination to defend the city to the death. This envoy really admires you. If the city exists, the people will exist. If the city falls, the people will die. These words are very impassioned and make one's blood boil. It's just that I think Guard Lu's method is a stupid one. It can't be any more stupid. Hearing this, Lu Qingyuan and everyone else were stunned. They all looked at Chen Ning with confused eyes. They were muttering in their hearts, this is a stupid method. Could it be that you have a smart method? Chen Ning glanced around, and her gaze landed back on Lu Qingyuan's face. She asked in a serious tone, Guard Lu, you are prepared to lead these 3,000 soldiers and 2,000 strong citizens to fight against the South Yu's army of 100,000. If you can defend, then defend. If you can't, then die. Is that right? But have you ever thought that even if all 5,000 of you die on the battlefield, Uejo City will still be lost in the hands of the South Yu? If that's the case, why don't you preserve your strength and only leave 300 people behind? Then have the rest of the soldiers and citizens leave the city ahead of time? Lu Qingyuan let out a laugh and raised his head. He said, in the end, the honorable envoy still wants us to abandon the city and become deserters on the battlefield? Although we can keep our lives this way, how will we have the face to see our ancestors if we continue to live like this? We have already sworn to live and die with Uejo City. We will never run. As soon as his voice fell, the soldiers all shouted in unison, we will follow Guard Lu and live and die with Uejo City. We will defend the city to the death. The way they looked at Guard Lu was filled with passion and admiration. But the way they looked at Chen Ning was filled with disdain and contempt. Oof. What special envoy sent by the emperor to help defend the city? What a big mouth. But he is actually a coward. How dare they encourage them to abandon the city and become deserters that everyone despises? Hey! Lu Qingyuan clasped his hands and said to Chen Ning, if official Chen doesn't want to die, then I understand. Someone, quickly prepare 2 fast horses and escort official Chen and Miss Qian out of the north gate. Official Chen, I still have to patrol the city walls, so I won't be sending you off. Please forgive me. I'll leave now. He actually ordered them to leave. Moreover, he knew that he was going to die, so he didn't even say that they would meet again someday. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile. She placed her hands in her sleeves and calmly stood in place. Is Guard Lu trying to chase us away? Do you think we're all cowards who are afraid of death? She said unhurriedly. Lu Qingyuan bowed. I don't dare. Because Chen Ning was a special envoy sent by the emperor, he did not dare be disrespectful with his words. But his expression clearly said, could it be that you are not? Chen Ning said, if we were really of the emperor of the city, why didn't we come? Are we not afraid that we won't be able to leave? When the South Yu army arrives, we'll lose our lives here as well. Her words made Lu Qingyuan speechless. He stared at her and didn't know what to say. That's right. I'm misunderstood, official Chen. I hope official Chen doesn't blame me. The more Lu Qingyuan thought about it, the more he felt Chen Ning's words made sense. If he was really afraid of death, why would he enter the city to die? Chapter 1674. Mr. Chen, please step aside to talk. Lu Qingyuan cupped his hands to Chen Ning and pointed at a corner of the city wall. There was no one there. Sure. Chen Ning gave a faint smile and followed Lu Qingyuan to the corner. Lu Qingyuan lowered his voice and said, this lowly official wants to ask Mr. Chen for advice. Since Mr. can say something like this, You must have thought of a good method. Not only can it save the lives of the citizens and my 3,000 soldiers, it can also protect Yuezhou City. That's right, of course I have a method. Chen Ning smiled and nodded. Lu Qingyuan was surprised and happy. He was so excited that his voice trembled. Really? Chen Ning nodded again. I beg Mr. Chen for advice. Lu Qingyuan knelt down on the ground with a plop. Chen Ning reached out her hand to help him up. Guard Lu, there is no need to be so polite. Please rise. Your loyalty to the country has made this envoy admire you. This envoy will naturally protect the lives of you, the citizens, and the soldiers. You are not afraid in the face of danger and have sworn to protect the city with your lives. You are all good men in my West Chu. How can the hot blood of such men be spilled in Yuezhou City? You only need to listen to my arrangements, like this and this. She lowered her voice and put her lips next to Lu Qingyuan's ear, saying a few words in a low voice. Lu Qingyuan's expression was filled with shock at first, but it slowly eased up. Then he nodded his head, revealing a surprised and happy expression. He gave her a thumbs up. Clearly he was completely convinced by Chen Ning. The 1,000-faced young master and the soldiers were far away, so they couldn't hear the two of them. They were all very curious, not knowing what Chen Ning said to Lu Qingyuan to make his expression change so much. After Chen Ning finished speaking, she raised her brows. What does Guard Lu think of my plan? Wonderful. Wonderful. Lu Qingyuan's expression was filled with joy. He quickly said, this lowly official will immediately follow Mr. Chen's plan. What else does Mr. Chen need? Just tell me. Even if you want the stars in the sky, this lowly official will think of a way to give them to Mr. Chen. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, that's right, I do need something. I'll have to trouble Guard Lu to find it. What does Mr. Chen need? An ancient zither. Ancient zither? Lu Qingyuan was startled. He wondered what the zither had to do with defending the city. But since Chen Ning asked, he agreed without any hesitation. No problem, this is a small matter. Though the city of Yuezhou is not exactly rich, finding a zither is not a difficult task. I will certainly deliver the zither to Master Shun. Please wait a moment, Master Shun. Okay. Lu Qingyuan was just about to give orders to the guards when they suddenly heard the sound of galloping horses coming from outside the city. Everyone's faces immediately became solemn. Lord Garrison, it's a sentry. The soldiers on the city wall shouted. Quick, open the gates. Lu Qingyuan ordered. In next to no time, a horse galloped over. The person on the horse was covered in dust, blood, and sweat, and his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. Before he could reach Lu Qingyuan, the scout had already fallen off his horse, gasping for breath. The South Yu army is Yu's. The Nan army is as near. The Yu army is Qingyuan. Hearing this, the faces of all the guards present changed. They would arrive here in less than 2 hours. Lord Garrison, quickly give the order to fight. Chapter 1675. Time is of the essence. Guard Lu, hurry up and give the order. Chen Ning said. Lu Qingyuan gritted his teeth and gave the order in a loud voice. Pass down my order. All the guards on the city walls are to retreat. Not a single one is to stay. Then pass down the order. Open the north gate and let all the citizens leave the city as soon as possible. They must leave Yuezhou City within half an hour. Anyone who stays will be killed without question. Other than my 300 personal guards, all the guards are to escort the citizens out of the city. There is no room for error. As soon as he issued this order, everyone was shocked. The guards all looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't believe their ears. What did the guard mean by this order? Was he telling them to abandon the city and run away? Didn't he say they were going to defend the city to the death? Were they not going to count? They all stared at Chen Ning in anger. The envoy sent by the emperor must have said something to the garrison officer, causing the garrison officer to change his mind. The guards all felt their blood boil as they loudly shouted, Sir, we will never be deserters. We would rather die in battle than run away. Lu Qingyuan looked at the resolute and impassioned faces, and he felt a burst of excitement in his heart. He nodded. You are all good men of my West Chu. To be able to say something like this, it means my teachings have not been in vain. However, I'm not telling you to run away. It is Sir Chun who has a plan to defend the city. You just need to follow his plan. What's Sir Chun? I think he is just a coward. I don't believe his plan. I'm afraid he is just trying to trick Sir. Sir, you must not trust him. Who knows if he is a spy sent by the enemy? He is not sent by the emperor to defend the city. He is clearly telling us to abandon the city and run away. That's right. He is telling us to evacuate the city. If there is no one left in the city, wouldn't that be giving Yuezhou City to the South Yu Kingdom? The guards all began to talk at the same time as they continued to shout. Lu Qingyuan's face darkened. He pulled out the blade on his waist and swung it in the air. He then shouted, "All of you shut up. If anyone dares to criticize Shun Daren again, this general will chop off his head." The guards immediately shut their mouths, and the entire place became silent. Military orders were strict. As soldiers, they could not disobey the orders of their superiors. Lu Qingyuan raised the blade on his waist and shouted, "Captain of the personal guards, listen to my order. This subordinate is here." The captain of the personal guards stepped out. Lu Qingyuan whispered a few instructions into his ear, and the captain of the bodyguards replied loudly, "This subordinate obeys. Hurry and do it. There are no mistakes." The captain of the bodyguards received the order and led Lu Qingyuan's 300 bodyguard away at lightning speed. "This subordinate is here. This subordinate is here. You have to do this and this and this and this." Lu Qingyuan whispered a few words into his ear. When the leader of the vanguard heard that Lu Qingyuan wanted them to escort the citizens out of Yuezhou, he was filled with unwillingness. After hearing Lu Qingyuan's order, his eyes brightened and he shouted, "Sir Chun orders his orders." Yan and the commander. He gathered 1,000 soldiers under him and quickly left to carry out the military order. Lu Qingyuan assigned tasks to the 3,000 soldiers in the city. He also issued an order for the people in the city to leave the city immediately. No one was allowed to bring their valuables with them. Chapter 1676. Chunning followed the stairs and climbed up the city wall. She looked into the distance and saw the situation inside and outside of the city. From afar, she could see dust rising from the south. It seemed like the army of the South Yu was approaching. Looking to the north, she saw the citizens dragging their children as they fled north. The soldiers of Yuezhou were holding onto their weapons and protecting them along the way. The city of Yuezhou was completely empty. There was not a single soul on the streets. Lu Qingyuan's 300 soldiers were hiding somewhere. Not even a shadow could be seen. The man with 1,000 faces stood behind Chunning. Seeing this, he felt a chill invading his body and couldn't help but shiver. It was as if in the large city of Yuezhou, only he and Chunning were left. They were about to welcome the 100,000-strong army of the South Yu. He revealed a bitter smile and thought he must be crazy. Why didn't he leave Yuezhou with the citizens? Why was he standing on the city wall with this crazy girl and watching the army of the South Yu approach? I say, girl, you sent everyone away. You didn't even leave a single person behind. Could it be that you want to fight the 100,000-strong army of the South Yu by yourself? The man with 1,000 faces knew he was going to die, so he wasn't as polite to Chunning anymore. What aunt? She was just a girl. Chunning looked at the dust flying in the distance. Her lips slowly curled into a faint smile as she turned around. Who said I was alone? You didn't leave either, did you? The man with 1,000 faces froze and said, I wanted to see a pitiful weak girl like you. I wanted to stay and help you collect your corpse. Chunning smiled at him. Her eyes were as clear as water, and there was not a trace of panic on her face. She slowly said, Do you think I will die? Not that you will die. You will definitely die. More dead than dead. The man with 1,000 faces said hatefully, It looks like you hate me a lot. Since you hate me so much, if I die, wouldn't that be exactly what you want? Chunning softly smiled. The man with 1,000 faces turned his head and said, It's because I hate you that I want to stay and watch you die. Chunning's eyes did not even blink as she looked at him. That clear gaze seemed to see through his heart, as if it was saying, Aren't your words just saying one thing and your heart saying another? The man's face couldn't help but turn red. He didn't want to look at her anymore. Chen Ning suddenly said, "If you want to leave, it's not too late. Since the South Yu army hasn't arrived, you should leave through the north gate with the citizens." The man with 1,000 faces said angrily, "I'm not leaving, unless you give me the antidote. It's better for me to die than to live like this for the rest of my life." Chen Ning smiled and said, "All right, since you're not leaving, then you can stay. Remember what you promised me. After it's done, I'll definitely give you the antidote." The 1,000-faced young master said sarcastically, "You want to hear me play a song before you die? Very well, bring me the zither. I'll fulfill your final wish." He thought to himself, when the Nanyue army arrives, he and she will die without a burial. It would be better to take advantage of this time to fulfill her conditions, take the antidote, and leave this damned place. Chun. Ning didn't say. Ning and Chun and said. Chapter 1677. The 1,000-faced young master said this out of anger, but who would have thought that Chen Ning would nod her head and say, "That's right, that's exactly what I was thinking." Hearing this, the 1,000-faced young master's mouth was wide open. He stared at Chen Ning in shock and couldn't say a single word. After a while, he muttered, "Crazy, you must be crazy. I'm also crazy. I'm actually standing here with a madman like you to wait for death. No, I have to leave. I have to leave immediately. If I stay here with you any longer, I'll turn into a complete madman." He turned around and walked toward the stairs. "Wait!" Chen Ning suddenly called out to him. The 1,000-faced young master stopped in his tracks and turned around. His face was as cold as frost as he said in an icy voice, "Do you have any last words? Seeing that you are a person who is about to die, this young master might be able to help you complete one last wish." Chen Ning gave a faint smile and shook her head. "I don't need any last words because I won't die. Qian, you won't die either. As long as you listen to me, I can guarantee that not a single hair on your head will be missing." The 1,000-faced young master coldly laughed and said, "Your boasting sounds good, but it's a pity that I don't believe a single word of it. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't believe your nonsense. Once the 100,000 army arrives, not even a blade of grass will grow in Yuezhou City. Not even an ant will be able to survive." Chun Ning giggled and said, "Then do you dare to make a bet with me? What bet? Let's bet that you and I will both be alive, and that not even a strand of hair will be missing." "Ha ha, bet. I'll take this bet with you. I'll definitely win." The 1,000-faced young master coldly laughed and said, "I bet that you won't be able to die again. You'll die so unrecognizable that even your parents won't be able to recognize you. However, even if I win, you'll have to pay me back in your next life." Chen Ning smiled and said, "All right, since it's like this, then let's bet on one thing. If I win, you have to unconditionally do something for me. If you win, you can also unconditionally ask me to do something for you. No matter what it is, you can't refuse. How about it?" "All right, I'll bet with you." The 1,000-faced young master reached out his hand without any hesitation and clapped 3 times with Chun Ning. "Little girl Chun, if you die, it means you lose. Remember to pay me back in your next life. There's no need for the next life. I can return it to you in this life. However, the one who will win will be me." Chen Ning revealed a confident smile. "You." Just as the 1,000-faced young master was about to speak, his ears twitched as he heard footsteps behind him. He immediately shut his mouth and turned around. Lu Qingyuan's armor clanked as he walked up the wall, walking in Chun Ning's direction. "Master Chun, there is no need. Chun you of Chun, Chun of you. He, Chun, he sang, Chun Ning, he sang, he this Chun you of Chun, he say, he. Chun, he, and thought. He Chun, he. Chun, he. Chun, he, Chun of. He, Chun, he say, he. Of. He, Chun, he. Chapter 1678. Hearing him say this, Chen Ning took the zither. She saw that the zither was covered in ancient patterns. It really was an ancient object. The end of the zither was engraved with the words, Yin Yu. So this zither is called Yin Yu? It really is a nice name. She stroked the zither a few times before handing it over to the thousand-faced young master. Qian, this zither is very precious, so take good care of it. We still want to listen to your music in a bit. Lu Qingyuan happily said, so this zither is for Miss Qian to use. I never thought that Miss Qian would know how to play the zither. This lowly official will be able to enjoy it in a bit. The thousand-faced young master took the zither and gently plucked the strings. It was clear and resonant. He thought that this was a good zither, so he nodded. Chen Ning said to Lu Qingyuan, Guard Lu, the South Yu army will arrive soon. You should go with the soldiers. There's no need to stay here. Lu Qingyuan said, Sir Chen does not know martial arts, and Miss Qian is a weak girl. This lowly official wants to stay here to protect the two of you. Although this lowly official's martial arts are not good, and I'm afraid I can't block the South Yu army. Killing one is one. Killing a pair is a pair. He pulled out the blade on his waist as he said this. He waved the blade in the air, and with a schwa sound, he sheathed the blade. His movements were very clean. The thousand-faced young master gave a snort, not putting his martial arts in his eyes at all. With this kind of mediocre martial arts, he had the nerve to take it out to show off. If he didn't lose his martial arts, even if there were 10 Lu Qingyuans, no, 100 Lu Qingyuans, they still wouldn't be able to compare to his pinky. Chen Ning revealed a smile and said, Guard Lu, when the enemy comes, I will have a plan to make them retreat. If you stay here, you will ruin my plan. That's right. Did you bring the thing I wanted? Lu Qingyuan quickly said, I brought it. He took off the bag on his back and gave it to Chen Ning with both hands. Chen Ning opened it to take a look and nodded. Very good. She gave the bag to the thousand-faced young master and said, I had Guard Lu prepare a set of clothes and jewelry for you. You can change into it first. The thousand-faced young master looked at the bag and saw a beautiful set of clothes and beautiful jewelry. His heart was filled with doubt. He did not understand what Chen Ning was doing. However, he still obediently took the bag and walked down the city walls, looking for a place with no one around to change his clothes. Lu Qingyuan looked at Qian's back in admiration. Only when he could see her did he turn back and said with a sigh, Miss Qian is very weak, but you can. Chen Ning. This lowly official will to protect Ning and Miss Chen. Chen Ning smiled and said, as long as you follow the plan and don't make any mistakes, after we defeat the South Yu army, I'll marry Qian to Guard Lu. How about that? Lu Qingyuan could not believe his ears. He was so happy that he was scratching his head, unable to say anything. Although after he heard Chen Ning's plan, he did not have the determination to die like before. But in the end, he only had 3,000 people, and the South Yu country had 100,000 army. No matter how good Chen Ning's plan was, to use 3,000 people to defeat 100,000 army was like a fool's dream. This was something that could not be done. Chapter 1679. Sir Chen, it's still too early to say this. After the battle, if this Lu is lucky enough to keep his life, then naturally that is what I want. Lu Qingyuan calmed down from his ecstasy and bowed as he spoke. Chen Ning knew that he still had doubts about her plan, so she didn't explain any further. She just said, Guard Lu, is everything prepared? Lu Qingyuan nodded and said, everything is going according to Sir Chen's plan. The citizens have all been evacuated from the city, and the 3,000 soldiers have all been settled down. There are only this official's 300 personal guards left in the city, and they are all hidden in the shadows. At the same time, the 4 city gates have been opened according to Sir Chen's orders, and the city guards have been lowered. Saying this, he looked at the dust that was getting closer and closer to Yuezhou City. He could already faintly see the South Yu cavalry rushing over like a tide. At the same time, the ground began to tremble, as if there were thousands of soldiers galloping over. His face changed color as he said in a shocked voice, Sir Chen, the South Yu army has arrived. You You should quickly come with this official to the underground tunnels to hide. Chen Ning's hands were pressed against the city walls as she stared at the black tide of South Yu cavalry without blinking. She was wearing a human skin mask, so there was nothing strange about her, but her eyes revealed a strange glow that was strangely bright. That was definitely not fear, terror, or retreat, but rather a kind of fearless courage. Lu Qingyuan looked at her eyes and suddenly understood where Qianqian's courage came from. Because when he saw Lord Shun's bravery, even his chest was stirred up. Although he was alone, he felt as if he had thousands of men and horses. His heroic spirit reached the clouds, and he just wanted to roar to the sky, raise his sword and shout, "With this one here, no rat dares." He suddenly regretted his suggestion. Sir Chun had this much courage, but he had asked him to hide in the underground tunnels. Wasn't that looking down on him? "Guard Lu, you can leave. If the South Yu soldiers see you, it will ruin my plan," Chen Ning said without turning her head. "Yes, this official will leave. Sir Chun, you and Miss Qianqian must take care. If the situation is bad, immediately enter the underground tunnels." Lu Qingyuan did not dare disobey Chen Ning's orders, so he could only warn her again before leaving. Chen Ning gave an unsound, but her eyes were still looking towards the south. At this time, the South Yu army was getting closer and closer. They were only a few hundred meters away from Yuezhou City. They could already see the flag of the South Yu army being raised high up. There was a large Chu embroidered on the black flag. After Chu Xiaoyang submitted a map to South Yu, the South Yu emperor conferred him the title of King Chu and gave him the position of Great Marshal. This title had a deeper meaning, and everyone, including Chu Xiaoyang and Chu, knew it. The South Yu emperor's promise to him was that as long as he could destroy West Chu, then the king of West Chu would belong to him. This Chu flag was Chu Xiaoyang's symbol. Chen Ning stared at the flag, and her lips slightly curled. The glow in her eyes became sharp and dark. "Chun," he came. "Chun, Chun Ning, Chun Chu Chu," he Chun Kama to Chu to say, "Not good, good." Chapter 1680. "Quick, follow me out of the north gate. We need to leave this place as soon as possible," the thousand-faced young master yelled. Chen Ning, however, stood there without moving. She stared at him and slightly furrowed her brows. "Why are you in such a panic?" The thousand-faced young master's eyes were wide open, his gaze filled with panic. He shouted, "Shun lass, you're still standing here, foolishly waiting for death. Don't you know that the 4 gates of the city have all been opened, and the moat bridges have all been lowered? This means that the South Yu army is entering the city. It's over, it's over. The South Yu army is here. It's too late to escape now. Why didn't I leave by myself? Why did I bring you with me? You're crazy, so I'm crazy too." Chen Ning's expression was calm as she slowly said, "Of course I know. I was the one who told Guard Lu to lower the 4 gates and the bridges." The thousand-faced young master said in shock, What did you say? You told them to lower them? Are you crazy? Do you want to die faster? Why did you do this?" Chen Ning put a finger to her lips and made a should gesture. "Don't be impatient. Look, the South Yu army is here." She pointed below the city walls. The thousand-faced young master followed her finger and looked down. Instantly, his jade face lost all color and no blood could be seen on his face. The sound of horse hooves thundered. The vanguard of the South Yu had already arrived before the city. As far as the eye could see, the black-armored South Yu soldiers were like a black tidal wave as they swarmed towards the city of Yuezhou. They quickly spread out in all directions and surrounded the entire Yuezhou city. Not even a drop of water could trickle through. The horses neighed, and the war drums shook the sky. Their roars were like thunder, and their aura was monstrous. Seeing the South Yu army's aura, the thousand-faced young master felt his legs turn to jelly. If it weren't for the fact that he was holding onto the city walls, he would have fallen to the ground. Too late, too late. It's too late. We're surrounded on all sides. We're like turtles in a jar. We can't escape. He mumbled. Chen Ning couldn't help making a pei sound and said, "You're the turtle. I'm not." She looked up at the thousand-faced young master and smiled. "You look really good when you dress up. Guard Lu's eyes are not bad. You look like a fairy with this set of clothes and jewelry on you. The thousand-faced young master looked at her like he was looking at a monster. His lips curled up as he mumbled, "At this time, we're about to meet a disaster, and you can still smile? You even have the heart to praise my clothes and jewelry. Chingirl, are you a woman? Yu's courage is even bigger than a man. Do you even have more courage than a man? Do you know that if you were to fall into the hands of the South You people, your life would be worse than death? They will rape you again and again until you die. I advise you that if you don't want to be humiliated by those beasts, you should jump off the city wall as soon as possible and fall to your death." "I can you?" Chen Ning looked at him. "I think the one who should be worried is you. You seem more like a woman than me right now, and you're even a girl that looks like a fairy." Chapter 1681. He was so angry that his chest felt like it was going to explode. His two eyes stared right at Chen Ning like he wanted to punch a hole in her face. Chen Ning revealed a calm smile and said, "Of course not." The thousand-faced young master was so angry that he couldn't say anything. "Right now, I want you to sit down. Don't think about anything and just concentrate on playing the zither. If I don't tell you to stop, you have to keep playing. Do you understand?" Chen Ning kicked a zither stool in front of the thousand-faced young master and had him sit down in front of the zither table. The thousand-faced young master stared at her and said, "You want me to play the zither? How could I have the heart to play the zither right now? I'm telling you, Father doesn't want to play the zither. Father wants to smash it." He clenched his fist and slammed it down on the zither table. However, he had lost his internal energy, so he only felt pain in his hand, and the zither table did not move at all. "Be careful. This is the Yen Yu zither. It's priceless. If you smash it and ruin my plan, you'll be a woman for the rest of your life." You little girl, are you really not afraid of death? Do you really want me to play the zither right now?" The thousand-faced young master saw that there were more and more South Yu soldiers below the city walls. They had already surrounded Yuezhou City in 3 layers. He already knew that unless he could grow a pair of wings, he would not be able to escape. Since he was already dead, he might as well throw caution to the wind. Chen Ning looked down at the city walls and saw a group of South Yu soldiers wearing black helmets and armor. There were 2 flags that were raised high. One of the flags had the word Chu embroidered on it, and the other had a winged tiger embroidered on it, giving off a powerful aura. Under the Chu flag, there was a young general wearing a white helmet and armor. He was riding a snow-white horse, standing out among the black armors. Not to mention that the young general had a handsome appearance. His eyebrows were long, his hair was black like ink, and his body was tall and straight. He was like a pine tree that stood out from the crowd. "It really is him." Chen Ning's heart shook. Although they were far away, she could still recognize the white-clothed general's face. She only needed to look at his figure on the horse to recognize him. Who else could it be other than Chu Xiaoyang? Beside Chu Xiaoyang, there was a maroon horse with a black-armored general riding it. He had a tall stature and a handsome face. He had an imposing appearance and a valiant appearance. Chen Ning suddenly remembered that the thousand-faced young master had mentioned that the South Yu Emperor had sent the second prince Tuoba Zheng to be Chu Xiaoyang's assistant. The black-armored general must be the second prince, Tuoba Zheng. Chu Xiaoyang and Tuoba Zheng rode side by side as they looked towards Yuezhou City. The city gate was wide open, and the city guard bridge was lowered. As far as the eye could see, the streets of the city were clear at a glance. However, there was not a single person on the streets. It was so quiet that it looked like an empty city. The 2 of them then looked at the city wall and saw that there was not a single flag on it, nor was there a single guard. They couldn't help but stop their horses in shock, their hearts filled with bewilderment. You to say, to the was to they, to they was to the they like, was to say, ha ha I, Toba Zheng am famous. These people must have been scared out of their wits. Westchu brats, you are so useless. You don't even dare to fight. You are all a bunch of cowards. Tuoba Zheng quickly came back to his senses. He raised his head and laughed loudly. His expression was arrogant, and his words were full of contempt for Westchu. Chapter 1682. Along the way, although he was the second prince, he had been suppressed and hindered by Chu Xiaoyang. He had been suppressing his anger for a long time. He was also a hot-tempered and straightforward person, so he would occasionally say a few words to mock Chu Xiaoyang. However, Chu Xiaoyang acted like he didn't hear his words at all. He treated them as if they were just farts, and his expression did not change at all. Strategist Pang quickly tugged on Tuoba Zheng's sleeve, hinting him not to talk too much. Tuoba Zheng did not care and said, "What are you afraid of? I'm not scolding him. I'm scolding the West Chu cowards." Chu Xiaoyang was expressionless as his cold eyes scanned the city walls and gates. He raised his hand. "Go see what the situation is like at the other 3 gates," he ordered. Not long after, a soldier came back to report, "Your Highness, the situation at the east, north, and west gates is the same as this one. The gates are open, the city guards are down, and there is not a single person in the city." Chu Xiaoyang was silent, but his eyes were filled with suspicion. Tuoba Zheng impatiently swung his horse whip and shouted, "King Chu, what are you hesitating for? The people in this city have abandoned the city and fled. Let's quickly lead the army into the city. Don't be rash. According to what this king knows, the general guarding Yuezhou City is called Lu Chengyuan. He is a brave general and not a coward who would abandon the city. Now that the 4 gates are open and the city guards are down, it's very likely to be a trap. We can't act rashly in case we fall into a trap. We should observe for a while longer and send scouts into the city to find out what is going on." Chu Xiaoyang shook his head and calmly analyzed. Tuoba Zheng snorted, his face full of arrogance and disdain. "King Chu, these West Chu people are as cowardly as mice. They've obviously abandoned the city and fled. Yet you insist that this is a trap. I think you just don't want to enter the city. You're afraid that if we take over Yuezhou City, we'll take over half of West Chu's territory, right? You dare say you're not a spy? You're clearly on West Chu's side," he angrily shouted. Hearing this, Chu Xiaoyang's expression darkened. He pulled out the spirit snake sword, and the sword tip glowed like a rainbow. It flashed in front of Tuoba Zheng, and then he quickly sheathed the sword. "Princess Pingxi, please mind your words. If you dare to insult this king again, this king will definitely not let this matter rest," he said coldly. "You are waving that broken sword in front of this prince," Tuoba Zheng shouted. "Are you trying to scare me? Let me tell you, other people can, but you can't scare this prince. This prince is not afraid." Before the word "you" could leave his mouth, his words came to an abrupt halt. He suddenly felt a chill on his chest. Looking down, he saw that a large part of his clothes had disappeared, revealing the skin on his chest. But Chu Xiaoyang's sword had already cut off his clothes without him noticing, but he did not notice it at all. If that sword had pierced a bit deeper, his heart would have been cut out by Chu Xiaoyang. Tuoba Zheng's face instantly turned pale, and he could not help but reveal a look of terror in his eyes. He looked at Chu Xiaoyang as if he was looking at a demon. Chapter 1683. Your Highness quickly apologized to His Highness. His Highness has always been loyal to our Southyu. He led the army to invade West Chu like a hot knife through butter. If it wasn't for His Highness, how could we have reached Yuezhou City so quickly? Advisor Pang saw that the situation was bad and quickly became the peacemaker. He gave Tuoba Zheng a look, telling him to apologize to Chu Xiaoyang. Although Tuoba Zheng was rash, he was not a fool. Seeing that Chu Xiaoyang was truly angry, if he said anything to provoke him, Chu Xiaoyang might not care and take his life. Even if his royal father took revenge for him in the future, he would not be able to come back to life. He thought to himself that a man should know when to yield and when to stand tall. He would temporarily apologize to him today and remember this debt. When he returned to his royal father, he would fiercely report this to his royal father. "King Chu, this prince said something wrong. Please don't take it to heart." Tuoba Zheng reluctantly said this. Although he was apologizing, his tone was still high and mighty. Chu Xiaoyang acted like he did not hear him at all. His eyes fell on the top of the city walls, not moving at all. Tuoba Zheng saw that Chu Xiaoyang was not even looking at him, clearly looking down on him. He couldn't help being filled with anger as he shouted, "This prince apologizes to you. Are you fucking deaf? What are you looking at this broken city for?" Your Highness, look, there are people on the city walls." Advisor Pang was very careful. He noticed that Chu Xiaoyang's expression was not right, so he followed his gaze to the city walls. "There are people? Is it the West Chu garrison? Have these turtles finally shown themselves?" Tuoba Zheng's eyes revealed a look of disdain as he casually looked up the city walls. With just a glance, his body trembled. He couldn't help rubbing his eyes and continuing to look. He saw that on top of the city walls, a young girl in white had appeared at an unknown time. Her mist-like veil was lifted by the wind, half in the dark and half in the dark. It swept past her delicate face. Although they were far away and couldn't see her face clearly, they could feel her extraordinary beauty. She stood gracefully on top of the city wall, graceful and graceful, like a fairy from the 9 heavens suddenly descending to the mortal world. There were at least several tens of thousands of South Yu soldiers surrounding the southern gate, but they suddenly fell silent. Everyone raised their heads to look at the white-clothed girl on top of the city walls. At this time, it was dusk, and the glow of the setting sun rose in the west. The faint glow of the sunset shone on the face, hair, and clothes of the white-clothed girl, making her look like a glowing object, beautiful beyond compare. Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes stared blankly at the white-clothed girl, their hearts thumping violently. No matter who it was, when they first laid eyes on this girl, their breath and were taken away by her exquisite beauty. Even the warhorses seemed to be enchanted by this girl's beauty and didn't even let out a single whinny. On the vast battlefield, tens of thousands of people were at daggers drawn. A great battle could break out at any moment. But at this moment, no one had any killing intent in their hearts. They just wanted to look at the white-clothed girl like this for the rest of their lives. Even in their dreams, they had never seen a fairy like this. Today, they were able to see the beauty of a fairy with their own eyes. Their lives were not in vain. Who this girl? Yang who? Who? This girl? I. This prince wants her. This prince doesn't care who she is. I want her. Chapter 1684. Although that strategist Pang was also shocked by the white-clothed girl's appearance, he had seen many things. He was only shocked that there was such a beauty in this world, but he was not as mesmerized as the young soldiers. Hearing Tuoba Zheng's words, he could not help frowning. This was not good. Perhaps this was a honey trap from West Chu. The tens of thousands of soldiers below the walls all had calm expressions as they foolishly looked at her, intoxicated by her peerless beauty. But they did not know that the 1,000-faced young master on the walls had a pale face and his body was slightly trembling. His back was already soaked in cold sweat, and his gauze-like clothes were sticking to his back. But in the eyes of the South Yu soldiers below, she seemed even more charming and beautiful. Play the zither. Chen Ning stood behind the 1,000-faced young master and softly said. Her eyes swept over the stunned South Yu soldiers below the walls and revealed a satisfied look. Very good. The effect was very good. It was even better than she had expected. When the 1,000-faced young master heard her calm voice, he could not help looking at her. He saw that she had a calm expression, like she did not know that the tens of thousands of soldiers below the walls were enemies. It was even more like she did not know how dangerous the current situation was. He viciously cursed in his heart, "Crazy girl." But when he saw that Chen Ning did not have any fear in her eyes, while he was slightly trembling because of fear, he felt ashamed. He secretly thought that no matter what, he could not lose to this girl. Now that things had reached this point, it was useless even if he was afraid. The 1,000-faced young master took a deep breath and sat down. With a calm heart, he gently waved his hand and plucked a string on the zither. It let out a clear wung-wung sound that was pleasing to the ears. The fairy is going to play the zither. The fairy is going to play the zither for this prince. This prince is truly blessed. Not only can I see this fairy like beauty, I can also listen to the fairy play a celestial song. Ha ha. Tuoba Zheng wildly laughed in his heart, but his face was in a daze. His mouth was wide open as he looked at the thousand-faced young master on the walls without blinking. His current appearance made him look like a complete idiot, and it even brought shame to his dignified status as a prince. If it was seen by others, he would probably be criticized by others. Advisor Pang wanted to remind Tuoba Zheng, but when he looked around, he saw that everyone had the same expression as the second prince. Everyone was like a fool, so he could not help secretly shaking his head. He could not help looking at Chu Xiaoyang. He thought that Chu Xiaoyang was younger than the second prince, so if he saw this beauty, he would not be able to control himself, right? When he looked over, he found that although Chu Xiaoyang was also staring at the top of the city walls, his attention was not on the white-clothed girl. His attention was not on the white-clothed girl, but on the blue-clothed youth standing behind her. Strategist Pang glanced at the green-robed young man. He saw that the young man was thin and had ordinary facial features. His face was expressionless. Under the radiance of the white-robed young lady, he looked as inconspicuous as a piece of dusty wood. He couldn't help feeling this strange. Why was Chu Xiaoyang not looking at the peerless beauty, but was interested in the young man behind her? Did this young man have some sort of background? Chapter 1685. But when Chu Xiaoyang saw Chen Ning dressed as a man, although Chen Ning was wearing a human skin mask and he couldn't recognize her, he could feel a familiar aura coming from Chen Ning. It was like a light that attracted his gaze. Ding dong, ding dong. The thousand-faced young master's right hand kept moving as he plucked the zither strings. Everyone at the bottom of the city walls was shocked. They all held their breaths as they prepared to listen to the fairy's music. That yin yuqin was truly a good zither. Each string had a beautiful sound, just like a mountain spring flowing out of a valley, tinkling ding dong dong. That yin yuqin let out a series of unpleasant sounds. It was like a carpenter sawing wood, or like many people grinding their teeth together. It was even more like the pitiful cry of a pig being slaughtered. The faces of the soldiers at the bottom of the city walls instantly changed as they revealed expressions of pain. Their eyes almost popped out as they looked at the thousand-faced young master in a daze. They did not dare believe that this pig slaughtering zither sound came from the fairy-like girl upstairs. Oh, my mother. This was simply too fucking unpleasant to listen to. Ta Ba Zheng had an intoxicated look on his face, but when he heard this unpleasant zither sound, his eyes and lips twitched as he revealed a look of disbelief. Chen Ning, who was upstairs, also felt her eyelids twitch. She finally couldn't help saying in a small voice, "Didn't you say you knew how to play the zither?" The thousand-faced young master's eyes looked down at the city walls before looking up at Chen Ning's eyes. He leisurely said, "That's right, this young master does know how to play the zither." "Didn't I play this zither? How is it? Did I play it well?" He gave a proud smile as he thought to himself, "If you want me to play the zither, then I'll play the zither. But if I play like a pig being slaughtered, what can you do to me? It's good. It really is pleasant to listen to." Chen Ning gave a faint smile and nodded at him. She said, "Continue playing, don't stop." His playing was worse than a pig being slaughtered, so he deliberately messed with her. Not only was she not angry, she even praised his playing. The thousand-faced young master was completely surprised, but it was a good thing he had a bit of self-awareness. Even he couldn't bear to listen to this unpleasant zither sound. So how could it be good to listen to? Forget it. Forget it. He wouldn't be able to guess this girl's thoughts even if he tried for a lifetime. Forget it. He wouldn't be able to guess this girl's thoughts even if he tried. The tens of thousands of soldiers at the foot of the city all heaved a sigh of relief, and their faces revealed expressions of relief. Just now, they were all tormented by the sound of the zither, and all of them looked as if they had been struck by lightning. At this moment, when they looked at the thousand-faced young master on the city wall again, they were thinking that indeed, no one was perfect. This lady's appearance was like that of a fairy who had descended to the mortal world, but her zither skills were not much worse than those of a butcher. They would rather spend money to see a than to hear a pig being slaughtered. Thousand-faced young master's expression turned solemn as he pressed the strings with his left hand and lightly plucked the strings with his right hand, instantly emitting a clear and melodious note. All the officers and soldiers felt their hearts skip a beat and their eyelids twitched. Some of them couldn't help but tear off their clothes and stuff them into their ears. They didn't want to listen to this unpleasant and noisy zither music a second time. Chapter 1686. At worst, after he brought her back, he wouldn't let her touch the zither for the rest of her life. As long as he could see her beautiful face, he would be satisfied. But after that, they only heard the beautiful zither music that flowed like clouds and water. The zither music was melodious, just like the music of the heavens. It stunned everyone present. With that beautiful zither music, it was as if a scene appeared in front of their eyes. Sometimes it was a mountain forest with birds chirping and flowers fragrant. Sometimes it was the ocean with surging waves. Sometimes it was winter and snow was falling. It was clearly the beginning of summer and the weather was hot, but the zither music seemed to release waves of coldness. It made everyone who heard it shiver, as if they were in a world of ice and snow. Regardless of whether they could understand or not, they were all intoxicated by the beautiful sound of the zither and were unable to extricate themselves. They had been intoxicated by the girl's peerless beauty before, but now they were enchanted by her zither music. Wonderful, wonderful! This prince has never heard such beautiful zither music in his life. Tuo Bajung was completely intoxicated as he stared at the thousand-faced young master's face. He didn't even dare to blink. Advisor Pang slightly closed his eyes as he listened to the zither music. When he heard a turn, the zither music jumped up like a mountain spring splashing onto a rock. It was clear and melodious, but the zither music suddenly stopped for a moment before returning to its original melody. He suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Regional King, this is an empty city." Tuo Bajung was currently immersed in the sound of the zither and did not seem to hear him. Chu Xiaoyang heard it and looked at Advisor Pang. "What did you say?" Advisor Pang's eyes revealed a look of pride and excitement. He stroked the 3 strands of whiskers under his chin and pointed at the thousand-faced young master on the city wall. He said, "Your Highness, please listen carefully. Although this girl's zither music is beautiful and flowing like water, it's clear that the person playing the zither is very calm and composed. However, I heard a flaw in her music." "What flaw?" The person asking the question was not Chu Xiaoyang, but rather Tuo Bajung. Just as he was absorbed in listening, he was disturbed by strategist Pang's words. It was as if he was sitting on a rock by the side of a mountain, enjoying the cool breeze and tasting fragrant tea. While he was feeling extremely happy, a fly flew around his ear and face, making buzzing sounds. It was really annoying. This is such a beautiful celestial music. Can you shut your mouth and let me enjoy it? He scolded military advisor Pang angrily. His impatient expression made it seem as if he would reach out and choke the other party's neck if strategist Pang said one more word. Advisor Pang knew Tuo Bajung's temper, so he was not afraid. Instead, he calmly said, "Regional King, don't fall for the enemy's beauty trap." "Oh, this is a trap." "What trap? Tell this prince clearly." "If this is a trap of my words, of your words, of my words, of my words, of my words." Tuo Bajung's words. However, for so many years, military counselor Pang had always been by his side to give him strategies, which allowed him to make many miraculous achievements. He had always admired military counselor Pang's ability. Although he was annoyed, he knew that military counselor Pang was definitely not someone who talked nonsense. He must have discovered something. Advisor Pang calmly said, "I once read a story in a military book. I wonder if your Highness and Regional King have heard of it." "What story?" Tuo Bajung impatiently said. Chapter 1687. This story is called the Empty City Stratagem. The story tells of a resourceful strategist. He had few soldiers in his city and was unable to face the enemy's army. So he set up an empty city stratagem. He opened the city gates wide and played the zither on top of the city walls, ignoring the enemy's army. The enemy's general listened to his zither and felt that it was not chaotic at all. Thus, he suspected that he had set up an ambush and retreated with his army. That strategist became famous and was a role model for us strategists. When strategist Pang mentioned the senior strategist, his eyes lit up and revealed a look of admiration. Tuoba Zheng furrowed his brows and said, "You mean the West Shu country is also setting up an empty city stratagem? That beauty is playing the zither on the city gate tower, as if she doesn't care about us at all. She even opened the 4 gates to welcome us in, but her real intention is that she is afraid of us entering the city. She wants to use the soldiers to scare us away and make us retreat. Isn't that right?" Strategist Pang nodded repeatedly. "That's right. However, when I was listening to the girl's zither, I heard a subtle change in tune. The zither suddenly changed pitch, which means that the person playing the zither was panicking and went off tune. Though she hit it well, I still heard it. That's why I dare to conclude that the person who set up this empty city stratagem must have read that military book. He wanted to use the same tactic to scare us off, but he didn't expect it to backfire. The zither is the voice of the heart, and the girl's mind was unstable. Her zither was slightly messed up and revealed a flaw. Therefore, I dare to conclude that there is no one in the city, and it is an empty city." Tuoba Zheng was overjoyed and slapped his thigh, shouting, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's enter the city now and capture that girl." "Ha! I didn't think Tuoba Zheng would have such good luck to be able to take down Yue Zhou without losing a single soldier. If I report this to the imperial court, my royal father will definitely praise me." Strategist Pang was also very proud. Stroking his mustache, he smiled. "This is all thanks to King Chu and Royal Prince. Your fame has spread far and wide. When the West Shu soldiers heard about it, they were terrified and abandoned the city, leaving only this beauty behind. They wanted to use the beauty and empty city stratagem to make us retreat, but they underestimated the 2 princes." Tuoba Zheng was so happy that he revealed his white teeth. Without blinking, he stared at the 1,000-faced young master and laughed. "Haha, West Shu lost the beauty and lost the city. Now that the beauty is mine, the Yuezhou city is also mine. Pass down my order. Everyone, enter the city at once." Strategist Pang quickly said, "Royal Prince, you are the vice-general and should be the commander of the army. With King Chu here, you can't overstep your authority." Tuoba Zheng could only suppress his excitement and anger. He reluctantly looked away from the 1,000-faced young master's face and looked at Chu Xiaoyang. "King Chu, Advisor Pang has already made it very clear. Hurry up and give the order to enter the city. This is an empty city, and there are no ambushes at all. Even if there are ambushes, they're all cowards and cowards. If they encounter our army, they will definitely kill them all." Chu Xiaoyang did not say a word. He did not look at Tuoba Zheng, nor did he look at strategist Pang. His gaze fell on Chen Ning, who was behind the 1,000-faced young master. His expression seemed to be deep in thought, making it hard for others to understand. Chapter 1688. Military advisor Pang quickly stopped him and advised, "Your Highness, please calm your anger. Don't interrupt your Highness' deep thoughts." Deep thoughts? What deep thoughts is he thinking? He's clearly looking at that beauty and wants to steal her away. "Surname Chu, this prince is telling you, Tuoba Zheng, have my eyes on that beauty first, so don't try to fight me." He followed Chu Xiaoyang's gaze and saw that the other side was also looking at the beauty. His heart filled with anger and worry. Chu Xiaoyang finally turned around and looked at him with a look of disdain. He gave a cold snort through his nose. "Beauty is a source of trouble. Ping Shi Royal Prince, we are currently on the battlefield, so this king advises you to behave yourself. You clearly have your eyes on that beauty and want to fight with me. I'm telling you, this prince doesn't care about anything, but don't even think about taking that beauty from me. You don't want me to enter the city because you want to be the first to get the beauty, right? How could this prince fall into your trap? Fine, if you don't give the order to enter the city, then this prince will." Someone, pass on this prince's order. Everyone is to immediately enter the city. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy. Tuoba Zheng's eyes turned red with anxiety as he loudly gave the order. He didn't even listen to military advisor Pang's advice. He pulled out the blade on his waist and swung it around with a sharp sound. His face was filled with killing intent. Your Highness, you can't. Military advisor Pang anxiously waved his hands and repeatedly apologized to Chu Xiaoyang. Your Highness, please calm your anger. The royal prince is always this impatient, and even the emperor can't do anything to him. He's been beaten, scolded, and punished, but he still hasn't changed after all these years. I hope your Highness won't blame my royal prince. He was very skilled with his words, directly bringing up the emperor. His meaning was that no matter how rude the royal prince was, he was still a prince. Even the emperor did not punish him, so if others wanted to punish him, they had to consider the consequences. Chu Xiaoyang was very smart, so how could he not hear the warning in his words? Normally, he would have been filled with rage, but he did not have the heart to bother with Tuoba Zheng at this time and did not want to punish him. Pingxi Princess, you want to enter the city wholeheartedly, don't you? Chu Xiaoyang coldly said. That's right, this prince must enter the city. Chu Xiaoyang, you don't want me to enter the city because you're afraid I'll steal your merits. Don't think this prince is a fool. On this road, all the merits belong to you, and this prince hasn't gotten a single thing. Now that there's a piece of meat in front of you, but you can't see it, do you think this prince is blind? Even if you don't want this great credit, this prince wants it. Tuoba Zheng shouted with reddened eyes. The anger he had been suppressing all along the way erupted at this moment. Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold laugh. He raised his chin and said, All right, since Pingxi's princess is stubborn and refuses to listen to this king's orders, do you dare to make a military pledge? What military order? Tuoba Zheng was stunned. Do you dare to write it down in black and white on paper? If you don't obey my orders and resolutely lead your troops into the city, if there is any consequence, you will bear it alone? Of course this prince dares. Chu Xiaoyang, once it's written in black and white, once this king achieves this merit, you won't get a single bit of merit. Even if you go to my royal father, you can't deny it. Tuoba Zheng shouted without any hesitation. Chapter 1689. Someone immediately brought over a brush and paper. Tuoba Zheng picked up the brush and waved it. Then he threw the brush on the ground and raised the sword on his waist. He shouted, Soldiers, listen to this prince's command. Enter the city. He did not even look at the military order that was still wet. He only thought about how to report Chu Xiaoyang to the emperor after he returned to the capital. He wanted to make sure that Chu Xiaoyang would never be able to recover. Advisor Pang bent down to pick up the military order and respectfully handed it to Chu Xiaoyang. Then he took 2 steps back and followed behind Tuoba Zheng, heading towards Yuezhou City. He did not try to stop Tuoba Zheng's actions. Instead, he was quite pleased with himself because Chu Xiaoyang's proposal of the military order was exactly what he wanted. He was originally worried that the second prince would insist on entering the city. If he really did take Yuezhou, then Chu Xiaoyang would bite back and take all the credit. Now that he had the military order, the credit for taking Yuezhou City would fall into the second prince's pocket. He would not be able to run away. The South Yu army entered Yuezhou City in a grandiose manner. They crazily poured into the city through the 4 gates. Chen Ning stood on top of the city wall and looked down at the scene below. Qian, let's go. We have to leave this place immediately, she suddenly said. Seeing this scene, the 1,000-faced young master's limbs were already sore from fear. His body was covered in cold sweat, and the song he played was no longer a tune. However, Chen Ning did not tell him to stop, so he had to keep playing. Hearing this, he immediately pushed the zither away and jumped up. Looking down at the South Yu army rushing into the city, his face instantly turned pale. Go. You're only thinking of leaving now? The South Yu army has already entered the city and has surrounded this place. We can't fly, so how can we leave? Where can we go? His expression was fierce as he shouted in a flustered and exasperated manner. There was no trace of the fairy temperament he had when he was playing the zither. Chun Ning lightly said, "Since we can't leave, then we'll just go down from here." She took out 2 ropes that she had prepared earlier and threw one to the thousand-faced young master. She tied the other end to her waist and the other end to the city wall. Then she grabbed the rope and fell down the city wall without any hesitation. You madman, you'll fall to your death like this." The thousand-faced young master yelled in shock. Chun Ning looked up. "If you don't come down now, it'll be too late. You know better than me what will happen if you fall into the South You people's hands." The thousand-faced young master gritted his teeth and looked back. He saw Tuoba Zheng leading a group of men and horses, charging into the city aggressively. His target was very clear. He was on the city wall. When he was playing the zither just now, he noticed that Tuoba Zheng's beast-like gaze was fixed on his face. It was as if he wanted to swallow him whole, causing him to feel uncomfortable all over. His mind was in a mess, and he actually played the wrong tune. It was rumored that the second prince of Southern Yu was cruel and bloodthirsty. He loved torturing and killing prisoners of war. If he fell into his hands, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Chin up, he I. He gritted his teeth as he shouted. He quickly copied Chun Ning's actions and tied one end of the rope to his waist. The other end was tied to the city wall. He grabbed the rope with both hands and quickly slid down the wall. Chapter 1690. So although the thousand-faced young master came down after Chun Ning, he reached the ground before her. At this time, the South Yu army outside the city had all entered Yuezhou City. In the large open space outside the city, there was only Chu Xiao Yang's Chu word flag flying high in the air. Surrounding him were his 1,000 elite cavalry soldiers. These 1,000 soldiers were carefully selected by him over the past few days. Each one of them was brave and could fight. Although there were only 1,000 of them, they were equal to 10,000 people. They only listened to Chu Xiaoyang's orders. If he didn't say anything, these 1,000 people would just stand there like wooden blocks. Damn, why is there still a group of people outside that haven't entered the city? It seems like they don't have any intentions of entering the city. Chin girl, father is going to die because of you this time. The thousand-faced young master landed on the ground. When he looked back, his face turned white. He muttered curses as he went to catch Chun Ning, who was falling from the city walls. When she landed, he untied the rope around her waist and pulled her to run. Let's go, let's go. There's still a group of South Yu cavalry here. While they haven't found us yet, let's run. The sky was already dark at this time. The two of them had fallen to the west side of the city walls, which was quite far from the south gate, where Chu Xiaoyang's personal army was. The place they fell to was quite hidden, so he believed that those people had not found them yet. At this time, he suddenly heard a shout from inside the city gates. The city gates are closed. The city gates are closed. Who closed the city gates? Why can't they be opened? What happened? This is bad. There's a fire. Such a big fire. Why did it suddenly catch fire? Quickly put out the fire. The city suddenly became chaotic. Of the 100,000 South Yu army, only Chu Xiaoyang's 1,000 soldiers remained outside the city. The rest had all followed Tuoba Zheng's orders and entered Yuezhou City. They did not find a single person in the city. Even Tuoba Zheng, who had excitedly rushed to the top of the city walls to find the zither playing young master, did not find anything. There was no one on the city wall, only a jade zither that was overturned on the ground, which made him angry and disappointed. He ordered all the soldiers to search the whole city and make sure that the beauty who played the zither was found and presented to him. At the same time, he ordered all the soldiers to massacre the whole city. As long as they saw a person, they would kill them and behead them, not leaving a single person alive. The soldiers cheered and quickly began to search the entire city. They searched every house in detail, and if they saw anything valuable, they stuffed it into their pockets without hesitation. Very quickly, all of the Nanyue soldiers had fished up a bountiful harvest. Many of them could no longer hold it in their arms, so they began to carry a bundle on their back. The more they searched, the more excited they became. All of their faces were flushed, and they barged in whenever they saw a door. However, no matter how they searched, they couldn't find a single person in the city. As the Nanua soldiers were conducting a massive search, someone suddenly realized that the city gates had been closed at some point. Furthermore, no matter how hard they tried, they could not open the gates. All 4 city gates were like this, and they immediately cried out in alarm. At the same time, a huge fire suddenly broke out in the city. Moreover, hundreds of houses and huts caught fire at the same time. The raging flames burned and crackled. The fire was spreading extremely fast, and the wind was fanning the flames. Very quickly, the entire Uezhou city turned into a sea of fire. Only then did the South Vietnamese soldiers begin to panic. Chapter 1691. Someone came to report that there was a fire in the city. He replied nonchalantly, "It's just a fire. What's there to be surprised about? Just put out. Did you find the person I'm looking for?" Just then, he received more and more reports saying that the east, west, south, and north gates were all closed and could not be opened. Hundreds of houses in the city were all on fire. What? Tuoba Zheng's eyes widened as he yelled in disbelief. Tuoba Zheng's face also revealed an expression of shock. Tuoba Zheng hurriedly ran out of his palace and went straight to the top of the gate tower. Looking around, the entire city was on fire. Everywhere was burning, and the light of the fire shot up to the sky. "Oh no, we've fallen into a trap." Strategist Pang's expression suddenly changed as he screamed. "Trap? What trap? Isn't this a sudden fire?" Tuoba Zheng asked. "My lord, there's no time to explain. We need to think of a way to get out of the city. If we delay any longer, we'll all be burned to death," Strategist Pang said in a hurry. At this moment, the city was in a mess. Fire was everywhere, and black smoke billowed. The soldiers of the south were running left and right, and 100,000 people were running towards the city gate. They were squeezed together, trampling over each other, and countless people died. As the fire grew bigger and bigger, many people were buried in the sea of fire. Countless more were crying for their parents, throwing away their helmets and armors as they ran for their lives. But no matter where they ran, they were surrounded by a sea of fire. The entire Uezhou city had turned into a burning vat, and the South U soldiers inside the city were turtles being roasted in the fire. Everyone, including Tuoba Zheng and Strategist Pang, had no idea how the fire started, nor did they know why the city gate couldn't be opened even if it was closed. Their faces were full of terror. The air was filled with thick smoke and the smell of burning flesh. What kind of smell was that? Just thinking about it made them puke. Tuoba Zheng regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. He grabbed Strategist Pang behind him and shouted harshly, "Didn't you say that this is an empty city? What's with the fire in the city? What's with the gate? You quickly think of a way for this prince to escape." Strategist Pang's face was ashen. He had already thought of countless ways to escape, but none of them worked. In a moment of desperation, he suddenly said, "We are trapped in the city, but I remember His Highness King Chu hasn't entered the city yet. If His Highness King Chu can open the gate from the outside, he can save us. Prince, why don't you go to the top of the city and ask His Highness King Chu for help?" This seemed to be the only feasible plan. Apart from this, he could not think of any other way. Tuoba Zheng shook his head without a second thought. "No, absolutely no. This prince will not lower his head to that West Chu coward." Strategist Pang said anxiously, "Royal Prince, the situation is dire right now. Why do you still care about face? If King Chu doesn't save us, our army of 100,000 will be burned to ashes. Listen to me. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Today you temporarily lower your head to him, but in the future, you cannot make him kneel to Jun Wangyi. As long as there is life, there is hope," he earnestly and sincerely advised. Tuoba Zheng's heart skipped a beat, but he still looked hesitant. Chapter 1692. Royal Prince, be careful. His personal guard charged forward and pushed Tuoba Zheng away, but he was hit by the beam. His body was instantly set on fire as he fell to the ground and cried out miserably. Just as Tuoba Zheng was about to step forward to help, several beams fell from above one after another. "It's dangerous, let's go." Advisor Pang quickly pulled Tuoba Zheng away from the danger zone and into an open space. When he looked back, that personal guard was already buried in the sea of fire. "Royal Prince, don't hesitate anymore. Quickly ask His Highness King Chu for help," he urged. Tuoba Zheng gritted his teeth, but this prince made a military pledge to him before entering the city. If anything happens after entering the city, this prince will bear all responsibility. Now, I have to lower my head to him. If this prince opens my mouth, I won't be able to raise my head in front of him for the rest of my life. I'll be laughed at by that West Chu coward. Advisor Pang stomped his feet. "Royal Prince, use your brain to think. Why did His Highness King Chu make you make a military pledge before entering the city? It's clear that he already knew this would happen, so he purposely used the military pledge to shut your mouth. If you really can't put down your face, then today Yuezhou City will be our burial ground. Are you really willing to die here? If you die, King Chu will be even happier, but His Majesty the Emperor will be heartbroken. What you're doing is hurting your loved ones and making your enemies happy." Tuoba Zheng suddenly came to his senses. He suddenly slapped his thigh and shouted, "You're right. This prince still has great ambitions to fulfill. West Chu hasn't been destroyed yet, so how can I die so easily? All right, this prince will ask for help from that West Chu coward." He walked forward with large steps towards the southern city wall when he suddenly heard an uproar behind him. "The southern city gate is open. Everyone go to the southern gate. It's King Chu. His Highness King Chu has sent people to open the southern gate and save us. Reporting, Royal Prince, the southern gate is open. Let's go to the southern gate." Tuoba Zheng was both surprised and delighted when he heard this. He suddenly turned around and saw the army surging towards the south gate like tide water. Advisor Pang, Chu Xiaoyang, he actually came to save us. He opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Strategist Pang was obviously surprised as well. Then he led Tuoba Zheng's mount over. "Royal Prince, quickly get on the horse. We're going to the southern gate." Tuoba Zheng jumped onto the horse with Advisor Pang following behind him. His personal guards escorted him the entire way as the group ran towards the southern gate. At this time, Chun Ning and the 1,000-faced young master were already far away from Yuezhou City. The two of them stood far away and looked at Yuezhou City that had turned into a city of fire. They could only see the flames illuminating half the night sky, and the fire was getting bigger and bigger. Although they were quite a distance away, their faces were still illuminated by the flames that filled the sky, making them bright red. The 1,000-faced young master's face was filled with joy as he looked at Chun Ning. "Chun girl," this prince said. "Chun," I said. "Chu." "Chun." "Xiao," you said. "Chun." I said, "Girl." "Chun girl, just how many more things are you hiding from me? Tell me what's going on." "You purposely had me play the zither on the city wall and open the 4 gates to evacuate the citizens and soldiers. You wanted to lure them into the city and then burn Yuezhou City down, turning the South Yu army into a group of roasted pigs, right?" He asked a series of questions out of curiosity. Chapter 1693. She nodded and softly said, "That's right. I ordered the citizens and soldiers to evacuate Yuezhou. Only Lu Qingyuan and his 300 soldiers remained in the city. I ordered them to hide a lot of sulfur and saltpeter in the houses of the citizens. Then I ordered them to dig cellars and hide in them. Once the Nanyu army enters the city, they will come out and burn the enemies. I also ordered people to guard the 4 city gates. Once the city is on fire, they will immediately close the gates. Then they will use molten copper to weld the gates shut. It will be like a turtle in a jar." The 1,000-faced young master couldn't help laughing. "Good plan. It really is a good plan. Little girl Chun, how did you think of such a good plan? Why didn't you tell me a single word? When I was playing the zither on the city walls, my legs were shaking and I even played a few wrong notes." His laughter came to an abrupt end, and his face revealed an extremely vexed expression. Damn, how could he not care about what he said when he was happy? He even revealed the fact that his legs were shaking. He was afraid of being laughed at by Chen Ning, so his face turned red. Chen Ning patted his shoulder in praise and praised. You did very well, very well. The thousand-faced young master angrily said, Little girl Chun, you're mocking me. I'm praising you. If you didn't play a few wrong notes, I'm afraid you wouldn't have lured the South Yu army into the city. If I had told you my plan, you wouldn't have been afraid. The zither is the sound of your heart. So if you weren't afraid, you wouldn't have been afraid when you played the zither, and Tuoba Zheng wouldn't have fallen for it. So, you did very well. You have to take half the credit for my plan's success, Chen Ning said with a smile. Although there was no trace of a smile on her face, her bright eyes were clear and filled with a faint smile. The thousand-faced young master's heart filled with joy, and his shame disappeared without a trace. He couldn't stop smiling. Suddenly, his expression changed. He pointed in the direction of the south gate and shouted, Look, that Chu Xiaoyang has opened the south gate with his soldiers. The people in the city are about to charge out. What do we do? Such a good plan. Why didn't Chu Xiaoyang fall for it? Damn, they actually escaped. He slapped his thigh in annoyance. Chen Ning raised her brows and calmly said, What's the rush? It doesn't matter if they escape. I still prepared a large gift for them. The thousand-faced young master's shock turned into joy as he quickly asked, What large gift? Quickly tell me. Chen Ning smiled without saying a word. With great difficulty, Tuoba Zheng led his bodyguards to the south gate. As expected, when he saw that the south gate was wide open, he immediately rushed out without hesitation. In his panic, he didn't know which way to go. He just ran in the direction where there was no fire. Seeing a dense forest in front of him, he led the team and plunged into it. Before he could even catch his breath, he suddenly heard battle cries from all around him. Immediately, he jumped in fright. Before he could regain his senses, he heard the sound of arrows piercing through the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Not good. There's an ambush here, someone shouted, and then the voice stopped abruptly. The man's throat was hit by an arrow, and he fell to the ground dead. Chapter 1694. They are hiding in the shadows and shooting arrows. This forest is too dense, and they are familiar with the terrain, so it is very disadvantageous to us. Men, quickly protect the royal prince and retreat out of the forest. Strategist Pang immediately made the correct judgment after observing the situation and shouted loudly. Everyone immediately protected Tuoba Zheng and Advisor Pang as they retreated all the way out of the forest. There was the sound of horse hooves as a group of West Chu cavalry charged out of the forest, charging towards them. The South Yu soldiers had just escaped from the sea of fire and were shot to death by arrows. Seeing the enemy charging at them, they only wanted to escape and did not want to fight at all. In the blink of an eye, countless people were cut down by the West Chu cavalry. Tuoba Zheng heard the miserable cries behind him. They were all the South Yu soldiers he had brought to the west. His heart ached, and he suddenly pulled on the reins, wanting to turn around and fight. Royal Prince, we can't. We can't. The enemy is in the dark while we are in the light. Their morale is high, so we should avoid them for now. Advisor Pang saw through his intentions and quickly tried to persuade him. At the same time, he raised his whip and slapped Tuoba Zheng's horse's butt. Tuoba Zheng led the defeated soldiers that had escaped from the city. They could only see flames and cries of killing everywhere. They did not know where the enemy was and where the safest place was. Advisor Pang pointed in a direction and said, Let's run that way. I remember that there's a white sand river not far from that direction. We'll be safe once we cross it. The South Yu soldiers were originally in a state of panic, but their spirits were roused when they heard this. They quickly ran in the direction of the White Sand River. South Yu barbarians, how dare you invade my West Chu? Hand over your life. While everyone was running, they suddenly heard a shout from the left. Following that, a group of West Chu soldiers rushed over. The general on the horse was holding an azure dragon saber. Without saying a word, he slashed at Tuoba Zheng, who was in the lead. Tuoba Zheng was shocked and was caught off guard. He was almost hit by the saber. Fortunately, Advisor Pang reacted quickly and pulled out a saber to block in front of him. With a loud dang, the saber in Advisor Pang's hand flew out of his hand and blood flowed from his palm. He did not care about the pain and desperately whipped his horse, causing Tuoba Zheng and his horse to quickly run in the direction of the White Sand River. One of Tuoba Zheng's subordinates charged at the West Chu general. The two did not even exchange a few blows before the general's head was cut off by the West Chu general saber. The Western general led his troops in a charge, and the South Yu soldiers who had already thrown away their helmets and armors were utterly defeated. Everyone was frightened out of their wits and only cared about running for their lives. Tuoba Zheng looked back as he galloped away. When he saw this scene, he couldn't help but tear up. Military Advisor Pang, it's all this prince's fault. If this prince hadn't insisted on entering the city, they wouldn't have lost their lives. They are all great men of my South Yu kingdom. Each and every one of them is a man of steel. I brought them on this expedition with the intention of bringing them great military exploits and bringing honor to our ancestors. Who would have thought that they would be buried here instead? I let them. He felt ashamed and remorseful. He wanted to pull out his saber and slit his own throat to apologize. His personal guards hurriedly hugged him along with his saber, shouting, "You can't." Chapter 1695. Strategist Pang's eyes were also blurred with tears. The guilt in his heart was 10 times greater than Tuoba Zheng's. Strategist, I was the one who made the decision on this matter. It has nothing to do with you. Tuoba Zheng's impulse quickly passed. He calmed down and sheathed his blade. His eyes were cold as he said in a cold voice, I, Tuoba Zheng, will remember today's defeat. One day, I will make the West Chu cowards pay with their blood. I will repay the lives of my South Yu soldiers 10 times over. His expression was ferocious as he gritted his teeth. His voice was filled with deep hatred. This was a crushing defeat that he had never suffered in his 10 years of marching. The flames that reached the sky, the dense forest that was like a rain of arrows, and the rows of corpses that fell to the ground were like a nightmare that was deeply imprinted in the depths of his mind. Royal Prince, look, that's the White Sand River in front of us. Strategist Pang suddenly pointed in front of him as his voice was filled with joy. Under the moonlight, a river glowed with water as it quietly flowed. There was no one on either side of the river. Seeing this scene, the South Yu soldiers that had just escaped from death began to cheer. They had been running for their lives for most of the night and had been chased twice. They were already exhausted, and many of them were badly burned. At this time, when they saw the river, they were like fish that had come ashore. They were extremely thirsty, and they rushed into the river in unison, jumping and leaping. The river was not deep, and the current was not fast. It only reached their calves and necks. Tuoba Zheng brought his horse down, and they all went into the river to drink water. He drank a few mouthfuls of the cool river water and washed his face. Only then did he feel a bit more spirited. Looking at the people around him, he suddenly laughed. Royal Prince, what are you laughing at? Strategist Pang was also tired and thirsty. After drinking his fill, he looked up at Tuoba Zheng in confusion. He couldn't understand how the second prince could still laugh when they were in such a sorry state. Tuoba Zheng pointed around and smiled. I thought this Lu Qingyuan, whom I've never met before, was a talented general. The plan he came up with an empty city was indeed brilliant. Even you, Strategist Pang, were fooled by it, causing us to lose many soldiers and almost all of us to be burned to death in the Yuezhou city. Then, when we escaped from the city, we were ambushed twice by the ambushers he set up, causing us to suffer even more losses. Now, we only have these few people left. If Lu Qingyuan sets up another ambush here, how can we fight against him when we're tired and tired? He will capture all of us in one fell swoop. Yet, there are no ambushes here. This shows that he is an idiot. Strategist Pang couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He nodded approvingly. Your Highness is right. If there's another ambush here, we'll have no choice but to surrender." The soldiers roared with laughter. However, their laughter didn't last for long. Suddenly, there was a muffled rumble not far away. It sounded like thunder, but also like the beating of drums. However, they were too far away and couldn't hear it clearly. "What does that sound?" "It sounds like thunder." "No, it sounds like the roar of a tiger." "Nonsense, it sounds like the beating of drums to me." Strategist Pang's face paled as he stared at Tuoba Zheng with fear. "Royal Prince, it can't be that good things don't come true, right? You said there were no ambushes here, but now an ambush has appeared?" Chapter 1696. He suddenly pulled out the saber from his waist and slashed twice in the air, gritting his teeth as he said, "No one is allowed to stop this prince this time. It doesn't matter if it's an ambush or not. As long as someone dares come, this prince will not let them return. Soldiers, prepare for battle. Battle, battle, battle." The soldiers also pulled out their weapons and raised them high as they shouted out. They had just escaped from death, and this could be said to be the only defeat they had suffered in their lives. Moreover, they had lost 100,000 soldiers to the enemy's 3,000 people. They had lost in such a sorry state, so everyone's stomachs were filled with fire. Now that they heard that the enemy was coming, they did not care about fatigue and only wanted revenge. In an instant, morale soared and everyone's eyes lit up. They were just waiting for the West Shu ambush to come, and they would kill them all. The rumbling sound were getting closer and louder, as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses galloping. Moreover, they were coming in extremely fast speed. Everyone's expression instantly changed. "This is bad. There's a flood. Quickly run. Quickly go ashore." Everyone suddenly found that the river that had just reached their calves had suddenly become turbulent. The water was surging, and it was like the Milky Way in the sky had suddenly poured into the White Sand River. It instantly sent the South-U soldiers who had not made it ashore far away. In the darkness, it was unknown how many people and horses had been buried in this flood. The South-U soldiers were all panicking. They could not understand why a small river would suddenly become a large river with giant waves. Cries and screams filled the air. It was a good thing Tuoba Zheng and Strategist Pang reacted quickly and rushed ashore. Seeing this scene, Tuoba Zheng was angry and anxious. He could not help crying again. He tightly gripped the saber in his hand as he gritted his teeth. The anger and hatred in his heart was about to make him explode. He just wanted to start a massacre and vent the depression in his chest. But he did not see a single shadow of the enemy, nor did he see any ambush. He could not vent his anger on this giant wave. "Advisor Pang, tell me, why is it that even the heavens are starting to go against me?" He gritted his teeth and grabbed Strategist Pang as he loudly questioned him. Strategist Pang shook his head and said, "Your Highness, this is not the anger of the heavens. We've fallen into a trap again." "Trap? What kind of trap?" Advisor Pang had an ashamed look on his face as he said in a low voice, "If my guess isn't wrong, the West Chu people should have already guessed that we would come to the White Sand River, so they piled up a lot of bags of sand upstream to block the river water. So when we came here, the river was very calm and shallow. When our men and horses entered the river, they pulled up the bags upstream, which was like opening the floodgates. The water surged and couldn't be stopped, which caused a lot of our men to die. Speaking, it is all because I did not expect this, otherwise it would not be like this. I ask your Highness to punish me." Tuoba Zheng felt a suffocating feeling in his chest, and he could not let it go. He glared at Strategist Pang fiercely and raised his knife. "Military Advisor Pang has always been loyal to you, Jun Wangyi. He has worked hard and performed many meritorious deeds. It was a momentary lapse in judgment. Please do not kill him." Chapter 1697. His subordinates hurriedly tried to dissuade him and grabbed his arm that was holding the blade. Tuoba Zheng gritted his teeth and slowly put down his blade. He nodded. "You're right. This prince acted rashly in a moment of anger. Strategist Pang, you can't be blamed for this. If someone is to be blamed, it should be this prince. Now, where should we go? He knew that strategist Pang was a resourceful man. If he killed him in a moment of anger, it would be the same as cutting off one of his arms. It would be painful for his friends and happy for his enemies. It wouldn't help the situation, and he would lose a strategist for nothing. Strategist Pang thought about it and said, "Why don't we go upstream?" Upstream? Tuoba Zheng had a look of disbelief on his face as he asked, "You just said that the enemy had stacked sandbags upstream. They're upstream right now. If we go, won't we be walking right into a trap? Why not go downstream?" In this prince's opinion, it's safer downstream. He had encountered several attacks in a row, which had dealt a huge blow to him. He had already become a frightened bird. Not only him, but the rest of the troops were also in a state of panic, afraid that they would encounter another ambush. Strategist Pang counted with his fingers and said, "Royal Prince, according to our investigation, there are 3,000 soldiers in Yuezhou City. Just now, we didn't see a single person in Yuezhou City. This means that they only left a few people to set fire to the city. The remaining 3,000 soldiers must be lying in ambush outside the city. In a dense forest, we encountered an ambush of 1,000 soldiers. After exiting the forest, we encountered another ambush of 1,000 soldiers. Now that we've arrived at the White Sand River, they're stacking sandbags upstream to block the water, causing us to lose many people. They must have calculated that we won't dare to go upstream. So the other ambush of 1,000 soldiers should be lying in ambush downstream. If we go downstream, we'll truly be walking right into a trap." Tuoba Zheng suddenly slapped his thigh and shouted, "Strategist truly is a strategist. Resourceful and resourceful. This prince is an idiot compared to you. All right, everyone listen to strategist Pang. Let's go upstream." Once he gave the order, the troops all obeyed. The group of people with horses rode on horses, and those without walked. In the panic just now, Tuoba Zheng's horse had been washed away by the river and disappeared. He thought of his beloved horse that had accompanied him for several years and couldn't help feeling sad. "Zheng, A-N-G-E, you can ride this horse." Strategist Pang led his warhorse over and handed the reins to him. "What about strategist Pang? I'm a military general and can walk, but you're a scholar, so I can't take your horse." Tuoba Zheng returned the horse to strategist Pang. At this moment, one of his personal guards led his horse over and gave it to Tuoba Zheng. "Royal Prince, you are our commander. You cannot be without a war horse. This subordinate's horse is for you." Tuoba Zheng nodded and leaped onto his horse. He glanced at the soldiers beside him and saw that every single one of them was in a sorry state. Their clothes and armor were in tatters, and many of them even had their eyebrows and hair completely burnt off. They were like a group of defeated soldiers, and they didn't have the slightest bit of the heroic spirit they had in the past. He raised the blade on his waist and said, "Today's defeat is all because of this prince's mistakes. One day, I, Tuoba Zheng, will use the blood of the West Shu cowards to wash away today's shame and take revenge for all of you." He raised the saber on his waist and said, "Today's defeat was all because of this prince's command error. One day, I, Tuoba Zheng, will use the blood of the West Shu cowards to wash away today's shame and take revenge for you all." Chapter 1698. The group dragged their feet and walked very slowly. Everyone was already exhausted. When they finally arrived at the ferry upstream, the sky was already turning white and the first rays of dawn could be seen. Everyone let out a sigh of relief at the same time. Their spirits rose as they thought that this terrifying night was finally over. On the side of the ferry, there was a tall pile of sandbags. Several dozen West Shu soldiers were resting on the sandbags. When they suddenly saw Tuoba Zheng's men, their faces filled with panic. With a shout, the dozens of people jumped into the river and quickly swam far away. Damn it, they ran fast enough. Tuoba Zheng brandished his blade a few times and said hatefully. He had wanted to charge forward and kill these dozens of people to vent his anger, but who would have thought that he would pounce on empty air again? Military Advisor Pang, you truly have incredible foresight. There are only a few dozen soldiers upstream, so their 1,000 men must be lying in ambush downstream. They didn't expect us to go upstream. They're going to make a mistake this time. Ha 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 ha. Tuoba Zheng turned around and roared with laughter at Military Advisor Pang. Military Advisor Pang smoothed the mustache around his mouth and narrowed his eyes as he smiled in satisfaction. But there are no boats at the ferry, so how are we going to cross the river? Tuoba Zheng looked around the ferry and couldn't help feeling anxious when he saw that there was not a single boat. Military Advisor Pang pondered for a moment before saying, "Someone go and check out the depth of the river." Soon, a soldier came to report, "The river isn't deep, it only reaches our calves." Military Advisor Pang nodded and suggested, "Your Highness, should we wade across the river?" Tuoba Zheng recalled the scene from before and felt a lingering fear. He asked worriedly, "There won't be a flood this time, right?" Military Advisor Pang smiled and said, "This military advisor can guarantee with my head that there definitely won't be. This is already upstream of the White Sand River, so it's very safe." Tuoba Zheng finally relaxed. He took the lead and jumped into the river with his horse. The river was indeed not deep or rapid, so he quickly reached the other side of the river. The army followed closely behind him and crossed the river. At this moment, everyone's hearts that were in their throats finally fell to the ground. Military Advisor Pang, where should we go now? Tuoba Zheng had no idea, so he asked Military Advisor Pang for everything. Military Advisor Pang did not have time to speak before there was a sudden shout. A group of people charged over. They were wearing West Chu clothing and looked like there were at least 1,000 of them. The South U people were instantly shocked. "It's over. It's over. It's over." Strategist Pang muttered with a pale face. Military Advisor Pang's face turned pale as he muttered, "Men, follow me to meet the enemy." Tuoba Zheng was both angry and anxious. He drew his saber and brandished it as he charged forward. The person leading the troops this time was Lu Qingyuan. He listened to Chun Ning's plan, and after setting the city on fire, he led 300 of his personal guards to safely leave Yuezhou City. Then he led 1,000 soldiers to the upper reaches of the White Sand River to set up an ambush. He waited from dusk to daybreak, but there was no sign of the Nanyue army. Just as he was getting impatient, he saw Tuoba Zheng leading a group of defeated soldiers across the river, heading in his direction. He immediately took the lead and charged forward, blocking Tuoba Zheng's path. Chapter 1699. When he saw Lu Qingyuan at this time, it was truly like meeting an enemy, his eyes turning red. He raised his treasured saber and used all his strength to chop down on Lu Qingyuan's head. He had the courage to block 10,000 people. His arm strength was strong. In the army, even 10 people would not be able to defeat him. This saber strike would definitely chop Lu Qingyuan into two halves. Who would have thought that Lu Qingyuan would raise his spear and block this slash? Although his arms were slightly numb from the shock, he was able to deflect Tuoba Zheng's blade. Tuoba Zheng was shocked. He had not thought that the other's arm strength would not lose to his by much. Before he could come back to his senses, Lu Qingyuan had already brandished his spear and stabbed at him while he was distracted. The two of them went back and forth, exchanging blows. Their fight was very intense, like a flashing horse lantern, dazzling the eyes of the onlookers. At this time, the two armies were already fighting. Very quickly, the South U soldiers were no match for the West Chu soldiers and were forced to retreat. The more Tuoba Zheng fought, the more shocked he was. He had not placed Lu Qingyuan in his eyes at all, but after fighting for a dozen rounds, he was actually being suppressed by the other side. Although he had a treasure saber in his hand, he did not have the upper hand at all. Instead, he was becoming more and more restrained, unable to move. He had thought that Lu Qingyuan's martial arts skills were higher than his, but he had not thought that after running for his life for a night, Lu Qingyuan would be completely exhausted, like an arrow at the end of its flight. He was only holding on to the anger in his chest. Meanwhile, Lu Qingyuan had rested for a whole night, building up his strength, so he was at the peak of his energy. With this, Tuoba Zheng was naturally not a match for him. It's over, it's over. It looks like I, Tuoba Zheng, will lose my life here. Tuoba Zheng turned around in the middle of the battle and saw that there was not a single one of his soldiers around him. Even Advisor Pang was nowhere to be seen. He suddenly had a feeling that the situation was hopeless. If everyone died in battle, and he was the only one left, even if he lived, what face would he have to see his royal father? It would be better to be killed by this West Shu general with a single slash. He was suddenly disheartened and lost his will to fight. He just wanted to throw down his saber and stab his neck. If a man wanted to die, he had to die on the battlefield, spilling his blood on the enemy's soil. There would be a day when his royal father would take revenge for him and lead the South Yu army to trample over West Chu. At that time, even if he died, he would be able to smile in the underworld. South Yu brat, hand over your life. Lu Qingyuan aimed his spear at Tuoba Zheng's heart. He knew that Tuoba Zheng's arm strength was extremely strong, far stronger than his own. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Qingyuan had rested, he really wouldn't be Tuoba Zheng's match. When he saw the young man's attire, he knew that the young man's identity was surely extremely respected, and it was very likely that he was the second prince, Tuoba Zheng, who was renowned for his ruthlessness and bloodthirst. His spear strike was just a feint, and he didn't expect it to hit its target. However, he didn't expect Tuoba Zheng to not dodge at all. He just stood there in a daze, as if he was seeking death. Lu Qingyuan couldn't help but be stunned. He thought to himself that instead of killing him, it was better to capture him alive and use him as a hostage. The other side had a noble status, so capturing him alive was better than killing him. He switched the spear to his left hand and reached out with his right hand, grabbing Tuoba Zheng's belt. With a loud roar, he actually captured him alive. This is bad. The royal prince has been captured. Quickly save the royal prince. You dare capture my royal prince, I'll fight it out with you. Chapter 1700. Lu Qingyuan never thought that he would be able to capture an important person in the enemy army so easily. He was stunned for a moment before throwing Tuoba Zheng to the ground and shouting, "Tie him up." Several people immediately came over and took out thick ropes to tie Tuoba Zheng up. He was like a dumpling, unable to move. When Advisor Pang and Tuoba Zheng's bodyguard saw this, their eyes turned red. They desperately tried to rush over to snatch the person back, but they were forced back by the West Chu soldiers. Instead, they retreated further and further away. Let go, my second prince. If the second prince loses a single hair, my South Yu's emperor will not let you go. He will send an army to raze your West Chu to the ground. Advisor Pang shouted. When Lu Qingyuan heard this, his heart filled with joy. He looked down at Tuoba Zheng and said with a cold smile, "So you really are Pingxi Prefecture Prince Tuoba Zheng? I've heard of your great reputation, saying that you are the war god of the army and that you are incomparably brave. Seeing you today, you are only SOSO." Tuoba Zheng was enraged. He suddenly opened his eyes and angrily shouted, "You West Chu coward, how dare you look down on this prince? You used crafty schemes to cause me to lose soldiers and horses, then caught me off guard, and now you dare to laugh at me. If you really have the ability, do you dare to let me go? Wait for this prince to rest for a bit before I fight you to the death." Lu Qingyuan couldn't help laughing. "Let you go? How could you even say such words? Your Highness, I didn't expect you to be such a foolhardy fellow. If it wasn't for that incompetent military advisor who was always by your side to give you advice, I'm afraid you would have already lost to the point of losing your pants." Ha 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 ha. The West Chu army roared with laughter. Tuoba Zheng's face turned purple as he gritted his teeth and said, "Our South Yu only fights with brute strength and not wits. You use tricks to defeat me. I won't accept this. If you dare to laugh at this prince again, wait for my royal father to lead the army here and raze your West Chu to the ground. If you have the guts, then kill me. My royal father will definitely take revenge for me. He will use the blood of all your West Chu people to wash away the humiliation this prince has suffered today." Lu Qingyuan gave a cold laugh. Shameless boasting. You are already defeated by me, yet you still dare to speak so arrogantly. Men, take him away. With a wave of his hand, a few soldiers escorted Tuoba Zheng and prepared to leave. Suddenly, the sound of galloping horses could be heard nearby. Pingxi Prefecture Prince, don't panic. We are under the orders of His Highness King Chu to save you. A group of cavalrymen in black helmets and armor quickly covered the area like a dark cloud. Tuoba Zheng and Advisor Pang were originally in extreme despair. When they heard the words His Highness King Chu, their eyes lit up and hope was ignited in their hearts. Save me! Hurry and save me! Tuoba Zheng could not help but cry out. Lu Qingyuan sneered and led his troops forward. How could he have known that this group of black cavalrymen would be so fierce? After exchanging a few blows with the black-robed general, Lu Qingyuan knew that if he continued to fight, he would not be able to gain the upper hand. He suddenly remembered that the special envoy Sir Chun had warned him that if he met Chu Xiao Yang's subordinates, he had to avoid them and not tangle with them. Retreat. Lu Qingyuan waved his hand and retreated on his horse. He led his subordinates to continue chasing after the South, you soldiers. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.